Ever pondered why we dedicate an entire day to celebrate women globally? It's a question that might have crossed your mind as you've seen the world come alive with vibrant rallies, inspiring speeches, and heartfelt tributes every 8th of March. This is no ordinary day, it's International Women's Day, a day that resonates with the voices of millions, echoing a universal message of respect, appreciation, and love towards women. From the farthest corners of the globe to the bustling metropolises, this day is marked with a unique blend of respect, recognition, and celebration. It's a day that transcends geographical boundaries, cultural divides, and socioeconomic classes, uniting the world in a common cause. But why? What's the story behind this day that sets it apart from the rest of the calendar? Today, we're about to embark on a journey through time to understand the history and evolution of this remarkable day. Our journey begins in the early 1900s, a time of great social turbulence and change. As the new century dawned, the world was in the grip of a seismic shift. The Industrial Revolution had transformed economies, and society was grappling with the repercussions. Amidst this backdrop, the first seeds of an idea that would resonate globally began to take root. This idea was born on the other side of the Atlantic in the United States in the year 1909. It was a time when the world was still very much a man's world. Women had few rights and fewer opportunities, but change was in the air. A new generation of women, tired of their marginalization, began to rise in protest. They wanted more than just the right to vote, they wanted equal rights in every aspect of life. This protest took the form of the first International Women's Day. Notably, it was not a mere day of celebration, but a day of action. It was initially a socialist political event, a day when women could come together to protest against their oppression and fight for their rights. This day was marked by a spirit of defiance and a determination to change the status quo. The suffragette movement, already in full swing, adopted this day as a platform to amplify their voices. They used it to demand not just the right to vote, but to challenge the entire system that denied them equal rights. It is crucial to remember that this was not a movement confined to the upper echelons of society. It was a movement that transcended class and status. It was a movement of the many, for the many. Women from all walks of life came together, united by a common cause. Their message was clear and powerful. They demanded equality, and they would not be silenced. The first International Women's Day was a watershed moment in the fight for women's rights. It was a day that marked a shift in consciousness, a day that heralded a new era. This marked the genesis of a movement that would span across the globe in the years to come. From a national day of protest, how did International Women's Day gain its global status? Let's take a moment to appreciate the journey this day has embarked on. A journey that has seen it transcend borders and cultures, and become a global beacon of women's rights and equality. The year 1975 marked a significant milestone in this journey. The United Nations, recognizing the importance of acknowledging and advocating for women's rights, officially adopted International Women's Day. But this didn't just happen overnight. It was the culmination of several pivotal events that propelled this day onto the international stage. One such event took place in the heart of New York City. The year was 1970 and the streets were alive with the spirit of protest. Thousands of women united in what was known as the Women's Strike for Equality. They demanded equal opportunities in employment, education, and the right to make decisions regarding their own bodies. This was a loud and clear message to the world that women's rights were human rights, and it reverberated across the globe. Fast forward to 1975, and the United Nations declared it the Year of the Woman. This year-long focus on women's rights further cemented the importance of International Women's Day and set the stage for its universal adoption. With the UN's adoption, International Women's Day had truly become a global phenomenon, a day to celebrate, to protest, to acknowledge, and to advocate for women's rights no matter where in the world they may be. Over the decades, International Women's Day has evolved, but how? To understand this, we must journey back in time. Initially, the day was a platform for political protest, largely driven by women demanding their right to vote. These brave women, suffragettes as they were known, took to the streets, using their collective voice to initiate change. Their actions were a catalyst, sparking a global movement for women's rights. As the years rolled on, International Women's Day began to shed its strictly political skin, transforming into a broader celebration of women's achievements. It became a time to honor the often overlooked contributions of women in various fields. science, literature, politics, and more. The day became a beacon, illuminating the success stories of women who had shattered glass ceilings and defied societal expectations. In the late 20th century, the day took on an added layer of significance. It was no longer just about celebrating achievements, it became a call to action. A call for gender equality, a call to challenge biases, a call to question stereotypes. It was a day to rally together, to collectively strive for a more balanced world. One of the ways this evolution has manifested is through the introduction of annual themes. These themes serve as a focal point for the year's celebrations and activism. For example, in 2020, the theme was #Each for Equal, emphasizing the importance of individual actions in driving collective change. This ongoing evolution of International Women's Day is a reflection of the changing socio-political landscape. As issues arise, the day adapts, providing a platform for these conversations. It's a day that has grown in tandem with the women's movement itself, echoing its triumphs and trials, its progress and its setbacks. So, as we celebrate International Women's Day, let's also acknowledge its journey. Let's remember the suffragettes who marched for their rights, the women who broke barriers, and the ongoing fight for equality. Because the day continues to adapt, reflecting the changing socio-political landscape and the ongoing fight for women's rights. In the 21st century, why do we still need a day dedicated to women, you may ask? Well, let's dive into that. Firstly, it's important to understand that despite significant progress, gender inequality remains a potent issue worldwide. For instance, the gender pay gap, an economic disparity that seems to stubbornly persist, regardless of the leaps and bounds in women's rights. Women, on average, still earn less than their male counterparts for performing the same work. This is more than an issue of fairness. It's an economic hurdle that impacts families, businesses, and economies. Additionally, women continue to be underrepresented in leadership roles across sectors. Whether it's in politics, business, science, or the arts, the number of women in positions of power and influence is still disproportionately low. This lack of representation not only stifles diverse perspectives and innovation but also sends a discouraging message to young girls and women aspiring to leadership roles. And then there's the issue of violence against women, a deeply ingrained societal problem that transcends borders and cultures. From domestic abuse to sexual harassment, these forms of violence continue to affect countless women, causing unimaginable physical and psychological damage. International Women's Day serves as a powerful reminder of these ongoing struggles. It's a day dedicated to raising awareness about these issues, sparking conversations, and inspiring action to address them. It's a day when we collectively say, we see these problems, and we won't rest until they're resolved. But remember, this day is not just about highlighting the problems, it's also about celebrating the victories, however small they may be. It's about acknowledging the courage and resilience of women who have broken barriers, shattered glass ceilings, and paved the way for future generations. While we've come a long way since the first International Women's Day, there's still work to be done. And that's why we need this day. It's a day of reflection, action, and celebration. A day to remind us that the fight for gender equality is far from over, and that every one of us has a part to play in this ongoing journey. So, what does International Women's Day mean to us today? International Women's Day is more than just a date on the calendar. It's a global celebration of the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women. It's a day where we recognize the trailblazers, the pioneers, the women who dared to dream and dared to challenge the status quo. From the boardroom to the sports field, from science labs to art studios, women are making their mark, and it's important that we take the time to appreciate and celebrate these accomplishments. But International Women's Day isn't just about celebrating achievements. It's also a day to raise awareness about the ongoing struggle for women's rights and to promote action for gender equality. Despite the progress we've made, there are still many places in the world where women are not given the same opportunities as men, where their voices are not heard, and their rights are not respected. On this day, we shine a light on these issues, and we call for change. So how can we celebrate this day? By acknowledging and appreciating the women in our lives, by educating ourselves and others about the issues women face, and by taking action in our own lives to promote gender equality. International Women's Day is more than just a day. It's a call to action for everyone, every day, because a balanced world is a better world.